Welcome to the second episode of Just Be Handy. This episode I will be looking at a bicycle that I bought for my daughter from Costway. As you see, that is the part number for it. This is a 16-inch wheel bicycle for basically a 4-year-old to a 6-year-old. And it was a good deal on Costway. And I wanted to get it and see what it's like. It has handbrakes, so it allows my daughter to start using handbrakes. One thing I did notice when I brought the box is it did have a big hole in it that the UPS guy used to carry the box around, and I think basically it opened up when he had it and he just used it for that. I went ahead and looked at it already, and things look okay, but I'll unbox it and show you guys what's going on. As you can see here, this is all the contents in the box, and I will spread them out a little bit more so you could take a look at all the stuff, and I'll check out the condition. So far I see three things that are not that good with the packaging. This was the portion that was behind that crack in the box. It basically took a hit, but it looks like it was a protective sheathing anyways for the bicycle. The instructions have a hole in them, and it cuts out some critical information, as you can see here. But I think I can deal with getting around that. Another thing I noticed is, and this is probably from shipping, I'll try to zoom in on this. You can see the chrome plating here seems to be compromised. I'll see what Costway will do about that, but meanwhile I'll get this bicycle together. It's probably changing the cover, or they might want to send me back a different bike at some point. But right now I want to get this going. I can see here also a lot of paint is missing on the bike. Really was not shipped very well. I don't know if you could see that too good. Let me try and get a close-up of that. Right there, the paint looks very compromised. Finding some more areas that are scratched on here on the forks that I will need to also address with them. It has this little bell. Basically it's a cheap, but it works. It'll go on the handlebars. One of the things I did like about this is a non-coaster brake bike, which is really an expensive bike to find. You would be looking at least a $230 bike to get something equivalent. This one was only about $65, $66 shipped to the house. So that is a plus for this bike, is the cost. But we will see how it comes together and what Costway will do to either replace it, or if they'll discount any money for these imperfections, and then I'll try to figure out how to match this pink. And as I've learned, pink is a very hard color to match, and very difficult to find. So we'll see what we can figure out here. Maybe they have a paint kit for us. So per the instructions, there is a left pedal and a right pedal, and a way to put them on. So we will be putting this left pedal on. As you can see, it's going in fairly smooth and nice. And then it's just a matter of getting a 14mm open end wrench to get it tightened up. And it's going on nice and smooth. There we go. Just hand tight. Okay, and then we will do the other side. And this is the right side. And it also is going in very nice and smooth. And it started very easily. This is a 14mm open end wrench. And just hand tight, no need to go too finger tight, no need to go super hard on it. Next I'm going to tighten up the seat, and there is a this pole that goes into the seat. It bottoms out on there, and it's two 13mm ratchets that will, open end wrenches that could tighten this up. So looks like it's best to keep this one straight since it has more thread on it, and then tighten up this one which has less thread on it. And we just want to make sure that's nice and snug so it doesn't slip out. Okay, and that is finger snug. Make sure it doesn't come out. And then we will put that in the bicycle. I did not put the tires on first because it just makes it easier for me to be able to put this thing together while it's on the fork and the rear tire. Just makes it a little easier. Here we go. Now we put this in. And I'll put it at the lowest setting for now until I can adjust it for my daughter. Because she is only 4, so it's probably going to be at that lower setting anyways. Let's see, we need it a little bit tighter. Turn this. Okay. Great. Nice and tight. And as you can see, the seat is on there nice and tight. Then I'm going to put in the handlebars. As you can see here, for the handlebars, there is a 13mm nut up here, and then that basically will cinch up on here and tighten it into the forks. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, for this I put the bicycle a little bit upside down so I could show you that this is the adjustment that was needed. So basically I had to pinch this until I knew that there was some friction on the wheel, as you could see here. It still turns, a little bit of friction, but then it stops when you depress the handbrake. She has the front brake to depend on and the rear brake. It is not a coaster brake type, so it will go backwards, which helps the child with balancing, because as we slow down, we want that gyroscopic effect. I don't know if you noticed that when you try to almost come to a stop and keep rolling, your body tends to want to keep pedaling backwards to get that gyroscopic effect, and I think it'll be a lot easier for my daughter to ride this than a bike with coaster brakes. All right, so I'll go on to put on the front wheel and the front brakes from here. Now, as you can see, I have added the training wheels, and we do have the rear brake hooked up. Front wheel is on. I did fill up the tires to 40 psi as recommended. To put on the rear splash guard, it is 10 millimeter bolts, and I will attempt to do those now. What I'm using is a 10 millimeter socket that will get in from the bottom. And if you don't have a deep well like this, you could use a small extension and a 10 millimeter, and then a 10 millimeter open end wrench. Get it lined up before you go ahead and torque it down. Make sure it's kind of square, and then you can go ahead and cinch it down after that. And they do have a nylock nut at the bottom, so that will hold in its place fairly well. And as you can see, there is the rear splash guard, and then we will put on the front splash guard and brake. They go together as a unit next. Okay, so we're trying to put on this rear splash, the front splash guard comes up and over. This brake system comes through this hole, and you try to line it right through. It gets a little tricky to fish through, especially again trying to do this on camera. There we go. And then the brakes here will need some adjustment, but you should be able to get this to come back. If not, there is a spacer here. So let's see, this splash guard is touching, which is not ideal. So we'll put the spacer in there to give us more space, and that should help get that aligned better. All right, let's do that next. Okay, so what I've found out is the best thing to do is to put that weird spacer washer between the brake caliper, then the black there is the fender, then that spacer washer, and then the nut after you work it through. So we'll get that all tightened up and then get it so that the fender is clearing. Once it's all tightened up, make sure everything is clear, then we can do the brake adjustments. See, we got the fender on. We had to persuade it a little bit and bend it back to clear the tire and for it to be effective. The brake is on. Again, that scratch was from the way it was delivered. So now we need to get this wire up onto the handle up here. So again, it is adjusted so it's fully tight. So we'll need to release this nut, get the slack we need, fish it over, and get it connected this way. We will put a basket eventually here, and it'll cover up a lot of this, and we'll get a reflector in here as well. All right, so that's the next adjustments I'll make. So best way to adjust these brakes is once you have slack in that line, pinch the brakes, get them close, get this down there, make sure the slack is taken up in the whole sheathing. Then tighten this up. It's just a regular 10 millimeter, and make sure it is snug. And that should give you good range of motion that's needed for it. There we go. We don't want it to be too grabby for the front brake, because it will give them some modulation, maybe a little bit more, but let me get these pads first adjusted, line them up. Okay, a little bit more angle, a little bit higher, just kind of try to line it up with, there we go, keep the brake on. That holds it in place, and just tighten it. Get that one tight. There we go. That's lined up. And for that one, there. Oh, the pad is backwards here. Here we go. There is an up and a down. It has to go with the rim. There's an angle on it. Make sure that angle is proper and is going to seat properly. Okay, we can get it a little bit closer to make it work a little bit nicer. So what we'll do again, pinch it, release here. Okay, make sure all the slack's taken out as best as we can, and tighten it. There we go. Free to move, and we'll give them great brake modulation. There you have it. The bicycle is together. The rest of it is going to be slight adjustments, and we'll put on some reflectors and a basket, and we'll be all done.